Nina, Willow, and the deal nobody wanted to make. Let us start at the lake, because that is where everything begins and everything converges, and laying out the full sequence of events from Nina's panicked impulse through to the uncomfortable reckoning that follows tells you everything about where this triangle of damaged people is heading. Nina pushed Drew. That is the fact at the center of everything. Drew spoke to her, clear, taunting, completely aware, and something snapped in Nina in that split second between hearing his voice and making her decision. The threat he represented, the years of careful maneuvering that suddenly felt like they were collapsing all at once, the desperate need to protect Willow and herself from the consequences of what they had done, all of it compressed into one terrible, irreversible moment. And the moment Drew hit that water, Nina heard what she had done. She started screaming his name. Not the controlled, composed Nina that Port Charles usually sees. Not the woman who has learned to manage her emotions in public because the alternative has cost her too many times. This was raw, unfiltered panic. The sound of someone who crossed a line she cannot uncross and was immediately horrified by what that felt like. Gio came running. Because Gio is Gio, and Gio is exactly the kind of person who moves toward a crisis rather than away from it. He is a trained lifeguard. He has done this before. He did not hesitate, did not calculate, did not stop to ask whether the man in the water was someone worth saving. He went in. He pulled Drew out. He saved a life that Nina, in one terrified moment, had tried to end. And now the real drama begins. Because Drew is alive. Drew is aware. And Drew has every reason in the world to go straight to the authorities and tell them exactly what has been done to him. The shooting, the paralysis, the months of captivity inside his own body, and the final, unambiguous attempted drowning. The list of crimes committed against this man is genuinely staggering when you lay it all out together. But here is where Brennan's deal with Valentine changes the entire equation. Valentine walked into Brennan's office with that black briefcase. The deal was struck. And now Brennan holds the black box, which means Brennan holds the evidence of Drew's own financial misconduct. The misappropriated funds. The proof that Drew is not the clean, righteous victim he would need to appear to be if he walked into a police station and started making accusations. Brennan understands exactly what he has. This is not just a box of documents. This is a leash. And the question is whether that leash is strong enough to hold a man who has just been pulled out of a lake after months of being chemically imprisoned in his own body. Think about what Brennan is betting on. He is betting that the threat of Pentonville, the threat of Drew facing his own legal jeopardy at the very same moment he tries to hold Willow and Nina accountable, is sufficient to make Drew swallow everything. Every grievance, every piece of evidence, every furious, justified impulse for justice. Brennan is betting that self-preservation wins over righteousness. And here is the uncomfortable truth of it. He is probably right. Drew does not want to go to prison. He has just spent months trapped. The idea of trading one kind of confinement for another is something his entire being recoils from. So the version of events he ultimately chooses to share publicly may end up being a very sanitized, very carefully edited version of the truth. An accident at the lake. A misunderstanding. A man who fell rather than a man who was pushed. But that does not mean Drew is at peace with any of this. Not even close. What is coming instead is something quieter and in some ways more menacing than a dramatic public accusation. Drew is going to make lives miserable, not through legal channels, that road is blocked by his own exposure, but through every other means available to a man who is intelligent, strategic, motivated by months of stored fury, and now fully mobile again. The restraining orders, the living arrangements, the access to Scout. The relationships Willow built during the period when she thought he could not fight back. Every single one of those things is a target, and Drew is going to move through them methodically, deliberately, with the patience of someone who has learned, through the worst possible experience, that waiting for the right moment is sometimes more powerful than striking immediately. The three-way reckoning between Drew, Nina, and Willow. The moment where all the lies and all the damage and all the impossible choices get laid out between them is coming. It is described as a come-to-reality moment. A confrontation where everyone in the room knows the full truth and has to decide what to do with it. That scene is going to be one of the most charged and uncomfortable things this show has produced this summer. Because nobody in that room is innocent. Nobody has clean hands. And whatever agreement they reach is going to be the kind that leaves all three of them feeling like they lost something they can never get back. Jason and Anna reunite, but something is very wrong underneath it. Now, let us talk about a reunion that should feel straightforward and warm and full of mutual respect, because in every normal sense, Jason and Anna are exactly the kind of people who should have an uncomplicated relationship built on years of shared history and genuine regard for each other. But nothing is straightforward right now. And Jason, even in the middle of everything he is personally carrying, may be the one person perceptive enough to notice. When Jason and Anna finally share scenes together again, the surface of it is genuinely moving. Jason expresses regret for everything Anna has been through in his absence. He wishes he had been there. He acknowledges the weight of what she has had to carry. And Anna responds with real warmth. She knows now that Rocco fired the shot that killed Cullum, which means she understands the sacrifice Jason made in taking that blame. She sees his choice for what it was. She honors it. These are two people who have been through enough together that they can communicate a great deal without saying everything out loud. There is a shorthand between them, a trust. And in the moments when both of them are fully present, that connection is real and valuable. But Anna is not fully present. Not anymore. Anna is being haunted. Not metaphorically. Not in the way that grief sometimes makes absent people feel close. She is experiencing vivid, intrusive hallucinations of Peter, and the version of Peter that lives in her mind is not a passive presence. He is active. He is demanding. He has opinions about how Anna is spending her time and her energy, and he is not shy about expressing them. During the very conversation where Anna is trying to reconnect genuinely with Jason, trying to be present, trying to be the steady, capable person she has always been, Peter intrudes. He surfaces somewhere in her awareness and registers his displeasure. From his perspective, Anna is wasting precious time on sentimentality when she should be moving toward the target he has been steering her toward. And that target is Britt. Peter has been building a case in Anna's fractured mind. He is pushing her to see Britt not as an individual with her own complicated humanity, but as a symbol, as the daughter of someone Anna could not reach, a repository for a rage that has nowhere else productive to go. The logic of it is circular and self-reinforcing, the way the logic of obsession always is. And Anna, who is brilliant and trained and has spent her entire career seeing clearly through exactly this kind of manipulative thinking, cannot see it when it is happening inside her own head. That is the cruelest part of what is happening to Anna. Her mind is using her own intelligence against her. The same capabilities that made her exceptional at her work are now being deployed in service of something dark and irrational, and she cannot get outside of it long enough to recognize what is happening. Jason notices something. He cannot put words to it immediately. He cannot identify what specifically is off about the interaction. But Jason has spent his entire life reading rooms, reading people, noticing the small things that do not quite add up. The slight distraction in Anna's eyes. The moment where her attention seems to go somewhere else briefly. The quality of her focus that is almost right but not quite. He files it away. He does not press her on it, partly because he is managing his own significant internal weight from everything he endured in captivity. His own dark memories are surfacing at unexpected moments. His own recovery is nowhere near complete. He has enough to carry without adding Anna's secret to the load. But he is watching. And Jason does not stop watching once he has noticed something worth watching. Anna cannot maintain this forever. The hallucinations are intensifying. Peter's demands are getting louder. The path he is pushing her toward is getting more specific and more dangerous. And at some point, possibly sooner than she anticipates, the secret she is carrying is going to become visible to someone. The question is whether that someone is Jason, who would respond with protective concern, or whether it is someone with less capacity to help her pull back from the edge before she does something genuinely irreversible. Britt has no idea that the police commissioner, a woman Port Charles trusts implicitly, is being quietly manipulated by a hallucination into viewing her as a target for revenge. She is going about her complicated, difficult, honest attempt to rebuild her life at the hospital. She is dealing with her professional relationships, navigating the tension with colleagues, trying to figure out who she is now that certain things she thought were coming have not materialized. She is completely unguarded against a threat that does not look like a threat from the outside. That vulnerability, combined with how far Anna is being pushed by Peter's voice in her head, is the combination that creates real danger. And poor Charles is going to have to wake up to that danger before it is too late. Jason will keep his attention on Anna even as his primary focus stays where it needs to be, with Danny with his own healing, with the work of putting himself back together. But the antenna is up. The awareness is there. And Jason's instinct, once activated, does not simply switch off because something more comfortable is happening nearby. Stay very close to Anna right now, because the thing she is hiding is getting harder to hide. And the consequences of it reaching its logical conclusion are something that nobody in Port Charles, not Anna herself, not Jason, not Britt, is fully prepared for. Peter's ghost, Anna's mind, and the path that leads somewhere terrible. Now let us go deeper into what is happening inside Anna, because this storyline deserves to be understood fully, not just as a plot development, but as something genuinely tragic about a character who has always been one of this show's most formidable and admirable figures. Anna came back to Port Charles with the understanding that she was better. Or, at least, that is what she communicated. She stepped back into her professional role with authority and confidence. She re-entered her personal relationships with apparent warmth and engagement. She presented, at every turn, the version of herself that Port Charles knows and trusts. It was a performance, not a malicious one. Not a performance driven by desire to deceive the people she loves. A performance driven by the very human, very understandable desire to be okay, to have survived what she survived and come out the other side as herself, intact, functional, not broken. But the hallucinations did not stop when she came home. They did not quiet down once she was back in familiar surroundings doing familiar work. If anything, they intensified. Because Peter, the version of Peter that exists in her mind, does not want Anna to settle back into comfort. He wants her focused. He wants her moving. He wants her angry. The specific direction that anger is being pointed is what makes this so dangerous. Cassius, the person whose actions are most directly connected to Anna's most recent trauma, is not accessible to her. He is not there for her to confront, to hold accountable, to direct her feelings toward in any productive or even cathartic way. So Peter's influence redirects that energy. It finds a target that is available, that has a name and a face and a history that can be constructed into something that justifies Anna's rage. Britt did not choose her father. She did not choose the name she carries or the associations that come with it. She has spent significant portions of her life trying to be something other than what that name implies, with varying degrees of success. She is imperfect. She has made choices that range from questionable to genuinely wrong. But she is not the villain of the story Peter is telling Anna. The danger is not that Anna believes Peter is real. She almost certainly knows, in some lucid part of herself, that what she is seeing is not real. The danger is that the feelings Peter channels are real. The anger is real. The grief is real. And when real feelings flow through an irrational source, they do not become less powerful. They become unmoored from logic, from proportion, from the judgment that would normally govern how Anna acts on what she feels. How far does this go? That depends on how long Anna can keep hiding it. Every day she maintains the pretense that she is fine is another day without real help. Every day Peter's voice gets more airtime in her mind is another day the narrative he is constructing becomes more convincing. And every day Britt remains unaware that someone is quietly building a case against her inside the head of Port Charles's top law enforcement officer is another day that Britt is genuinely at risk without knowing it. Jason is the variable that could change this. Not because Jason has any particular expertise in mental health, he does not. But because Jason notices things. Because Jason cares about Anna. And because Jason, who is carrying his own trauma and his own darkness right now, may recognize something in Anna's eyes that he has seen in his own reflection. A quality of struggle that is being hidden rather than addressed. If Jason reaches Anna before Peter's influence pushes her past a point of no return, there is a chance to interrupt the story before it becomes something Anna cannot come back from. If he does not, If the secret holds long enough for Peter to win the argument that has been building in Anna's mind, then Brit is going to need someone in her corner who is paying attention. And Port Charles is going to be reminded, as it always eventually is, that the most dangerous threats are not the ones that announce themselves. They're the ones that look, from the outside, like everything is perfectly fine. 3 stories with every thread pulled tight, and every character standing at a crossroads. Through alive and seething and navigating the most complicated kind of silence. Jason and Anna sharing a reunion that is warm on the surface and unsettling underneath. And Anna herself fighting a battle inside her own mind that nobody around her can see clearly enough to help with yet. General Hospital is in a stretch of storytelling right now that reminds you what this genre is capable of when it is operating at its very best. Deep characters, real stakes, consequences that ripple outward from every choice. Stay with us, sweetheart, because every single episode right now is one you absolutely cannot afford to miss.